You are listening to the Empowered Business Podcast. I'm your host, Monica Froese, a mom of two and your secret weapon to creating a six-figure digital product business. I'm on a mission to help 1,000 women make $100,000 a year. That's right, $100 million towards financial independence for women. As an online business expert, I am teaching you everything I know right here week after week, so you can join us on the journey to $100 million. Sound good? Then let's jump in. I don't know about you, but the thought of writing a book seems completely overwhelming. So when I brought today's guest on the podcast, and she told me that you could write a book to build credibility and brand yourself and do it within 30 days, and it does not have to be hard, it really got me thinking. So today on the podcast, I'm interviewing Jasmine Womack. She is a writing consultant and corporate trainer who helps high-performing leaders, professionals, entrepreneurs, and executives connect with others, package their expertise, and maximize their message through storytelling. Over the past 3 years, she has worked with over 400 authors to help them increase their influence and grow an expert platform through writing a book and teaching them how to expand their book into a profitable and scalable information-based business. Sound a lot like digital products? I think so. So let's tune in and listen to how Jasmine will teach us how you can write a book to build your brand and credibility and get yourself into the right rooms so that you can leverage your expertise to make a six-figure business. Let's dive right in. Jasmine, welcome to the Empowered Business Podcast. I am so excited to connect with you here.
Likewise, I'm super excited today, Monica. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. We're going to be talking about a topic that I feel for me, is overwhelming, but you're going to, I have a feeling, simplify it for us all, which is about writing books.
Absolutely.
Which is what you do. Okay, so where I like to start all these interviews, I like to hear about everyone's unique entrepreneurial journey. Like, what made you become an entrepreneur? How did you get here and what do you do today?
Oh, that's so yes, that's a journey. So I was a middle school teacher. So I was a language arts teacher. I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grades over the course of 12 years.
Wow, I did not know that.
Oh, yeah. And so throughout my career as a teacher, I had always had the desire to have a business of my own. For number one, I definitely wanted more money and I just wanted more options. And so I started out with multi-level marketing, programs, or companies. And I didn't do great at that. And so I was just trying to do different things. At one point in time, I started a non-emergency transportation company. I had a partner at the time. We had the business for a year and we had maybe 2 or 3 vans. Then I was like, okay, this is not for me. And so I went back so that was my 3rd year teaching. I took a year out to put into my company, then went back again after my 3rd year. And after that, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to try to go into administration and all those types of things. So around, let's say, my 10th year teaching, I had always had the desire to write a book. This whole time, from my 1st year to when I left and tried that business that didn't go well and I came back, I had been telling people, I'm working on a book. And I never came out with it. So it was just like, when I would come back the following year, my coworkers would say, hey, how's your book going? Oh, I'm still working on it.
What was the book about?
That was my first book. So that ended up being 20 Pearls of Wisdom, A Woman's Guide to Self-Preservation. It literally took me 10 years to write that book. It was a book that I had wanted to write since college. And I had all of the overthinking, all of the, the perfectionism, especially being an English teacher. Oh, this doesn't sound right. Let me go back and read. I went through that whole process. And it wasn't until I gave birth to my daughter, her father and I divorced literally 10 months into our marriage. We divorced. That sent me on a self-discovery journey I ended up getting remarried, and I was on bed rest with my son, which was my second pregnancy. And I said, you know what? I need to have something to show for this time. I'm literally at home. And my book was in the back of my mind. And I said, you know what? Let me stop playing around with this. And I put together a plan, and in 12 days, the book was done. So I literally went from struggling for 10 years to finishing the book in 12 days with a simple mindset shift. And I didn't work on it all day, every day. It was an hour a day for 12 days. And I finally finished the book that I had struggled with. So the book came out, and I'll honestly say, like, the rest was history. I the book came out, and that's when I was going into my 11th year of teaching. And that's when I got into online marketing, online business. So I leveraged Facebook and Instagram at the time to sell my book. I started building my audience. And then people started coming to me and asking me to help them with theirs. They were like, yeah, we know you're an English teacher. Can you edit my book? Can you do this? Can you do that? And when I got the confidence, after a good talking to by my husband and a good friend of mine, I started taking clients, and a year and a half later, I was leaving my job. So
isn't that crazy how that happened?
Literally how that happened. I mean, from the time I wrote my book, I turned the book into a challenge. Then we turned it into a membership community. Then after that, I started providing editing and publishing services for others. And it was a year and a half after my book came out, I left my job. I started making six figures in my business while I was still working. And then, yes, 18 months later, took the plunge and went into full time.
I have so many questions. First of all, one of the things that you said that really stood out to me is when you were on bed rest and you said, well, I have to have something to show for this, which is just talk about a go-getting attitude. And that's a very ambitious attitude. And so what I'm also curious about is what was the slight mindset shift that happened where it went from 10 years working on it to an hour a day for 12 days and it was done? Like, what was that shift in your mind?
That's such a great question. I always knew that I think it was a divine inspiration or divine push for me. It was like something in the gut of my solar plexus, so to speak, saying you need to do this. Like, it was gnawing on me. I couldn't get it away. And so I was at home, like you know how, when I was carrying my son, I went in for one of my normal visits, and she was just like, basically, you're about to go into preterm labor. You can't go to work tomorrow. And so I found myself living day to day normally. And then with everything being flipped upside down, literally within 24 hours. And so after a couple of days at home, I'm like, I'm at home watching TV all day. This is getting old. Like, I've been working on this. This has been a goal of mine. I need to have something to show for my time. Now, I will say during that time, Periscope was popular back then.
So I remember that.
I was on Periscope, and I started listening to these people teaching these I don't know how I found them, but we are searching, things will start showing up. And so I had listened to someone, and she was saying she wrote her book while she was on maternity leave. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And so I think I was just at home one day, not doing anything, looking at the walls. And I said, I need to have something to show for this time. I've had this push to get this done, and I'm going to be really upset with myself if I go back to work in 4 months and 5 months and I go back the same way that I left.
And that changed your whole life.
It shifted me. I said, I have to get it. Hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that for 10, nothing. I have to get it done. And I just said, you know what? I'm just going to stop overthinking it. And for me, a lot of it was me doubting myself and overthinking the process. And one of the keys to me writing was getting to the point where I said, I'm not going to edit as I write. That's been one of the things that stopped me. I'm just going to get it all out. And that's what I did. I got it all out. And I got all my thoughts out.
Absolutely my problem with writing. I edit as I go. And I was definitely that rebel in school where there was no such thing as a first draft to me. Like as I was writing, I was doing the final paper. I don't think I've ever really done anything where I was always editing while I was writing. And that's probably why I'm so overwhelmed, because it stops the flow of the ideas when you're editing at the same time. And I mean, I feel like we've been told this our whole lives by our English teachers like you. I've never listened to it. So, okay. What the book was about, though, turned into a membership community, but that is not what you do now at all, right? Like,
right. Yeah, I don't do that now at all. Like that was back in 2016. And
okay.
that book, I used it to launch. I did a 21-day challenge. And from the 21-day challenge, I launched a membership community. That's a whole entirely different story too. But I launched a membership community, and that gave me like my first taste of like making money online from home. And I was like, wait, you mean to tell me like I don't have to go get a part-time job? I don't have to do all these things that I've been doing all of the years to make the type of money to just supplement my income that I would like? And I'm like, well, listen, how deep can we go with this?
It becomes addicting, doesn't it? When you realize
it does, because you realize that you have the power to create.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like people are interested in what I create, and people are interested in my thought processes behind things, and they're willing to pay for it because it's helping them get results. So it was a breath of fresh air. It was a real blessing because, of course, as a wife and as a mom, I could supplement my income from home on my terms without having to leave my job or having to find someone to watch my kids. So yeah. It was just a real blessing for me.
Same. That's basically what my business did for me too. My first daughter will say, for the first 3 years of her life, I was in corporate, and for me, I had her when my career was taking off. It was like this really weird intersection. So I started traveling more, and I had an infant, and I had postpartum, and I had all these things happening. And for like the first 3 years of her life, I felt like I kind of missed it. It was just a blur of survival. And this business allowed me. I had my second daughter. I was about 2 years in full time in the business when I had my second daughter. And it's like I didn't miss any of her life because she's here. And just like the flexibility that it provides us, and then being able to help other women achieve that, which is what you're doing with helping other women write books. So I have questions about this. So basically, did you become basically an agency for a while, helping women launch their own books?
Initially, yes. So I came out with the 20 Pearls of Wisdom that turned into a membership. And then people started asking me to help them with their books. Now, in the beginning, I was scared to help because I was like, I just wanted to write my books. I didn't want to do anything like, what if I help people and I start messing up? And so it was one of my friends. She had her own publishing agency at the time, and it was my husband. And they were like, listen, all these people are coming to you. My friend was like, why are you sending these people to me? You know how to do this, And so I said, you know what, let me just stop being scared. And so I had a coach at the time. He sent me a client, and he told one of his clients who wanted to write a book. He was just like, go to her. She does it. I was like, why did you do that? He was like, because you know how to. So it was really one of my coaches pushing me out there to kind of push me into it when I was too scared to do it on my own. And they sent me my first client, and she was in Ireland. And so,
wow.
Yeah, so she was in Ireland. And then my second client was in Canada. And when my first two publishing clients were international. And then I was like, well, I can definitely do this because I just helped someone all the way across the world, publish a book. It's on Amazon. She's doing these amazing things. And with their testimonials, and then they were promoting it out to their audiences. And then people started coming to follow me on Facebook. And it just began a whirlwind where everybody's like, oh, you do this? Can you help me? And so I was building the plane while I was flying it.
Don't we all?
Like any processes in place. I learned how to start automating things, and I just learned, and it just started taking off.
So this is self-publishing, right?
So yes, initially this was self-publishing. So I was publishing people's authors' books for them. And I was helping them to get it on Amazon. And then they needed to know how to market. So I would give them some strategies. But then as things grew and as the demand became bigger, I'm like, oh, I can't do this by myself. So I had to hire a team of editors. I had to hire a team of designers. And then I'm like, listen, this is great, but this is taxing. I'm like, my true gift is teaching. I love teaching. I was a teacher for 12 years. I come from a family of educators. And so for me, I said, I wanted to reduce expenses and I wanted to help more people at scale. So that's how I turned the agency into a coaching program where I'm like, instead of me doing it for you, let me teach you how to do it yourself so that you create a skill. And now you can create any book that you want when you want it, because now you have the resources and you know how to do it. And now you don't have to depend on anyone. And that was the other thing too. A lot of my clients were coming back because they wanted to write and publish additional books. And I'm like, listen, I can teach you how to do this yourself so that you don't have to be dependent on someone else to do it for you. So
which makes a lot of sense.
Right. So that's how we evolved from agency into coaching. And at certain times of the year, I still do offer the agency model, but generally it's for people making over $500,000 because they don't have the bandwidth to do it themselves. So they just rather have someone do it for them, and we'll do it within 30 days.
Oh my goodness, 30 days.
Yeah. So I recently bought back that component, but yeah, that's how we got into coaching. I just turned the agency into, I taught what I did. I created a course documenting the publishing process. And that became initially Author Made Easy.
Okay. Now, so are all your clients that you coach now still self-publishing, or do you work with traditional publishers as well?
Well, that's a great question. So now I actually teach not only the publishing process, but I teach the writing, the publishing, the marketing process, and how to use your book as a bridge to your next. So it's evolved so much over the past few years. But we still primarily work with self-published authors. But what I found recently is that I have experts who end up getting traditional publishing contracts and they still need help. So they'll hire me on the back end to help them develop their content and help them to create a plan for them to write their content, and even to help them with the marketing strategies, because many of them still have to market their own books. So,
okay.
so I don't talk about that a lot, but yes, I still do have people who get traditional publishing contracts who still need help. And they'll hire me on the back end for some consulting work.
Well, because basically getting a book out there is all about the marketing, right? At the end of the day. So here's a question then. Do you enjoy the piece of helping people gather their ideas and write the book, or do you like the marketing piece better, or do you just love the whole thing?
I see, for me, it's an ecosystem. Like, you can't separate one part from the other. So I love helping these leaders and coaches take an idea and turn it into something tangible that they can then use to, influence millions of people around the world. I think that is the fulfilling part for me. Like, and to help people that were in where I was, where I'm like, listen, you're making money, but you're still working a full-time job, and like literally helping you to package your expertise and showing people the power of creation, that you have the power to create whatever it is you want to create, as long as you believe in yourself and as long as you have the fortitude and the patience with yourself to learn the skill and actually implement and execute it. You have the power to create anything that you want. That is the part that I love.
that sounds, you make me want to write a book, even though I said I never would, which is funny. It's a hard thing to do. Okay.
It's not hard. So that's the first thing you have to shift, and you have to say, it's easy. It's easy. I can do this.
Do you think
I can do this?
Do you need an existing audience to do this?
When I wrote my first book, I didn't have an audience. Writing my book and marketing it helped me to build my audience. Now, some people will say you need to go and build your audience first, but I think that when you're building an audience, it has to be very strategic. Like you don't want to just be a popular influencer and you have some of everyone following you and they're not following you for any particular reason other than you're popular. Like they may not convert into buyers. So for me, writing my first book is what helped me to build my audience because I knew who I was speaking to. I knew the problem that I was solving and I was creating content around that. And that content that I was creating around that is what attracted people. It's what helped me to get podcast interviews. It's what helped me to get speaking engagements. And that is what started to build my audience. So I think that it's whatever someone says, I have to build my audience first. I always counter them. I'm like, well, writing your book is going to help you build your audience because your book is a marketing tool and you can create content based on your book, and people who resonate with that content, they're going to come and they're going to want to come and learn more. You know, writing your book and when you create content related to that topic and to the things that you're talking about, it's going to position you to speak. It's going to open you up to go speak to coaching communities or organizations. And that's what's going to build your momentum. Being seen, being heard, whether it is virtually or in person, and promoting what you're doing.
So the book is a marketing tool, but it's not the end game.
It's absolutely not the end game. It's the beginning game. And I think that a lot of people see the book as the end game, and it's not. It's not. It's the beginning of the journey, because you should be able to sell your book to the masses and take a reader and bring them into your ecosystem and turn your reader into a client or into a customer. It's like like we were chatting about earlier. It's the same as with the podcast, right? So it serves the same exact purpose. You're creating information, a body of work where you have packaged your information and your expertise. And once someone reads that and they like what you put, they like what they've read, what you've read helps them move the needle in some aspect of their business or their life. They're like, okay, well, what else can I watch? What else can I buy? And it's just going to pull them in.
So do you recommend then, if someone, okay, so we talk a lot about customer journeys and sales funnels, and like I attract people to me via the podcast, but this is not, I'm leading them into my programs, right? So right. That it's so it's so funny. You didn't give me a complete mindset shift about, for some reason, I was not seeing if I wrote a book was part of my marketing funnel. It seemed like it'd be like a product, but it's not. I get that it's more front end. So do most of your people already have defined what they want to do after the book? Or do you recommend they know what that is before they write the book?
Well, it just depends on the level that they're on. So some people come with a course or program already created. But honestly, most of the authors that I've worked with up until this point, they have been corporate professionals. They're excellent at what they do. They're leaders. They've led teams, and they know that they want to do something. They're not sure how to put it together. So we help them to package it. So yes, you have your book, you have, from the book, yes, you put your marketing pinpoints in the book to bring people from the book to your email list, so that way they get into your ecosystem and that you can continue the relationship building process with them, and then you can offer a class, you can offer a master class, you can offer a 4-day intensive, not 4-day, a 4-hour, what we refer to as a full day intensive. And then from there, bring them into your coaching program. So it's a book is a tool to which you can market to the masses, so like I tell my students, if you sell 100 books, or if you sell 50 books a month, 50 books is $1,000. It's pretty easy to sell 50 books, if you are, consistent about being visible and getting the information out there. If you pull 5 of those readers into clients, then you can easily make 15 to 20K depending on your price point.
Yeah, it's kind of like a front end funnel on Facebook, all these tiny offers that we see and small products. But the Absolutely. End game is not that product. It's that if even if you break even on that front product, the goal is that a certain percentage go on to pay you more money on the back end in your higher level programs. It's like the same thing.
It's exactly the same thing. But here's the thing about books. Books already have an inherent value.
Yeah, that's true.
People when someone sees a book, they come prepared to pay. Nobody goes in Barnes and Noble expecting to get a free book. Like when people see books online and even if it's an ebook, people are prepared to pay for it if it's information that they want. And they know the general price range of a book is normally between $10 and $25. So I love books because it's not even necessarily breaking even, because the cost of a book might to get the book printed might be between $2 and $3 to get the book printed. You add shipping onto that is like another $3. So you've paid $6, to have the book printed and shipped. But when you sell it, you're selling it for what, $25? You're making a profit off top on the front end.
Wow. You're kind of convincing me into this. Okay. So when someone comes to you and the idea of writing a book is just super overwhelming to them, just where do I even start? How do I download my brain? How do you help them do that?
So the first thing that you have to do is like really determine what you are going to write about. So if you're already coaching or you already have some level of expertise, my suggestion is to write about what you already know. Write what it is you know, write what it is you do. I find that people generally tend to go into the weeds once they try to think about or they try to package their life story. And then they have all these questions. What should I write about? How much of my personal details should I include? And you don't have to do any of that. Like, yes, you can include some of your experiences into your book, but your book should not be centered around your personal life story. Write what it is you know, write what it is you do, make it 7 to 10 chapters. Now, one of the great things about it is that if you already have a body of work, like you do, Monica, like you have the podcast or you have blogs, you can take thematically related podcasts, you can have them transcribed. Have an editor to go through the document. They're going to tell you how you need to develop it. You go in and do what they say. Boom, you have your book.
Now, do you have editors you recommend for this?
Yes, I do have editors that I've built a relationship with. Honestly, the editors that work with me in my agency, I still have a working relationship with them where I still recommend their services because I work with them directly. So yes, I have specific editors that I work with and I refer my clients to. But a great way to find an editor, if you don't know how to find an editor, find an English teacher. Because they edit papers all the time. They do it for a living. So find an English teacher or someone who has some experience with professional writing. Because English teachers, they know how to edit in regards to copy editing, and they know how to developmentally edit as well, because they have to do it. They're writing and grading papers all the time and editing essays. Not a math teacher, not a science teacher. They might not be able to write. You want to ask someone who has a background in writing. That's one of the easiest ways. And that's really easy if you have kids or if you have a family member who has children.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I would never have thought of that.
And a lot of teachers, especially these days, are looking for ways to make money outside of their job. And a lot of them are already doing it on the side. Of course, you wouldn't know because, if you're just going in for a parent-teacher conference, you're not asking them. But if you ask, most teachers are doing something on the side to supplement their income, especially if they're not married. And even I know a lot of the ones who were married that still did something on the side to supplement their income and make some extra money. They're always looking for ways to make money from home.
So do your editors that you worked with, were they teachers?
They're still teachers.
Oh, they are?
They're still teachers. So
okay.
The editors that I work with, like one he's an administrator. I'm like, why don't you just do this full time? because he edits for celebrities and everything. He was like, listen, I have a certified paycheck. I don't want to be he does not want to be a full-time entrepreneur, although he makes well over six figures from his entrepreneurial activities. He was just like, he was like, I don't want the pressure of being a full-time entrepreneur. So I think that's important to understand too, that there are a lot of people out there who have businesses. They don't desire full-time entrepreneurship. So
that is such a weird concept for me. I'm like, why would I want to keep a job if I'm making over six figures in my business? But he
said he makes six figures on his job, and his job is easy. It doesn't require anything extra from him, and that's what he wants to do.
Heck, I mean, a guaranteed paycheck.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long is your coaching program?
So I have two. I have my coaching program and a mastermind. My mastermind is 1 year. My Automate Easy coaching program is 6 months. And it's 6 months because we wanted to give people enough time if life happens, if things happen, especially after COVID, happened, and, people have had personal losses, and things like that. So it's 6 months because we wanted to give that consideration and time in the event that life happens, but also because we're not just focusing on writing books. So you can write a book, you can write a book in 30 days, you can publish it within 45 to 60 easily if you're going the self-publishing route. But when it comes into prepping your audience to launch your book, prepping for your post-launch activities where you are, launching a mini offer, then that takes time to build out. That takes time to create those assets and make sure that everything is up and running so that we give 6 months for that full entire process.
So it's like the first 2 to 3 months is actually the book process. Then the last 3 months is the launch runway, essentially.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So now I have an existing audience, right? And to me, I feel like if I did write a book, I would have a launching pad already for it. Mm-hmm. How would I sell it though? Like what kind of marketing activities do you recommend that
I think that would be really easy. Like even it could be something as simple as mentioning your book at the beginning and at the end of your podcast. That's a great place for people to start. So people always want to know, where can I start? Instead of sending them to a checklist or something, purchase my book. This is a great place for you to start because it's going to, I hate to use this word, but it's going to immediately indoctrinate your audience, like more so than a checklist or some other type of lead magnet. Not only will they be able to learn something, but they're going to become familiar with your voice, with your teaching style, with your methodology. You follow me? So normally you'll send people to download something or get something. Hey, purchase my book. And I would even say that if you were conscious about fulfilling the deliverable of a physical product, one of the great things that I love about creating actual books is that you actually need the ebook to create the physical copy. So if you wanted to just sell the ebook version, then you could direct people to purchase the ebook. Hey, you can start here, but purchase my ebook.
And it's a credibility thing when you write a book, right?
Absolutely. But I feel like everyone needs to have a paperback, not just an ebook, because when you go to speak, when you have those in-person events, nothing converts better than a paperback book where people can actually see it, they can feel it, they can put it in their hands, they make the connection between you and your book and you. And even if they put it in their seat or their purse, they might not pick it up, but their book is going to sit there and look at them in their face, and they're going to remember that they saw you at this particular event and you said something that stuck in their minds. And you know what? I'm at this place where I absolutely need to read this book because I'm tired of being here. So it's a little bit different than sending someone to an email, to join your email list to get some lead magnet, and then it just sits in their email and they never open it or they never see it again.
And, people can share books on social media. I see that all the time with a lot of self-published authors I follow. Well, and that's actually, I I find out they actually have a book because they're sharing stories other people are tagging their book in of them reading it, like on the airplane and stuff like that. That's one of the things about being a digital product creator that I miss out on is the lack of the tangible evidence of what I do. Like just having something, and that's one of the reasons that writing a book has always appealed to me, but I always felt like it was out of my reach, or that I had to have a publishing deal to do it, or it's just like one of those things that people don't know a whole lot about. So it just seems difficult.
It's difficult if you tell yourself it's difficult. I told myself for 10 years it was difficult. And I told myself for 10 years, oh, I can't write this book. I'm not living what I'm writing about, all these things. But with a simple shift, I said, you know what? It's time. Let me get out of my own way. And I just sat down and did it. And I let the editors handle the rest. And so, I think that it's so important, especially in a digital age. It's important for connection. It's important for brand building, for credibility. It's another step above.
Yeah. And I've been hearing a lot about how if you're not on video, then, like with Reels and Instagram, prioritizing that. And we got TikTok coming out there, and it's like, I kind of really resonate with this whole, like, go back to the basics. Like, where did we all get started? With books.
I'm like, I'm not dancing. I'm not getting on TikTok.
I'm not either.
I'm not. And I feel like, there's always going to be something new. And I like the tried and true methods that it doesn't matter what happens, it works. TikTok it's popular today. It might be gone tomorrow, to be honest with you.
Like Periscope's gone.
Like Periscope's gone. And personally, I'm 37 years old. I don't want to be a 37-year-old mom dancing. No.
I'm not creative like that either. I'm 36 and I watch Reels. And like, here's the thing. There's some amusing things on there. And, I can go down the rabbit trail of it, but I just can't imagine doing it.
I don't want to do it. Like, I just don't want to. I don't want to use my time in that way. So no offense to anyone who does, if it works for you, work it. But for me, it just doesn't work. I just rather do something else. So it was one other thing that you said that I want to speak to. I think that people feel like they need a traditional deal in order to be verified or be credible. And I don't necessarily agree with that, because with me having self-published books, I have been featured in Forbes. I have, spoken to audiences of thousands. I have partnered with New York Times bestselling authors where they've asked me on their platforms to teach this process. And so I think that it's more so just about you having a high quality product. So yes, although you're going down the self-publishing pathway, your book doesn't need to, quote unquote, look amateur or look self-published. It needs to have the presence so that you can be perceived, on that higher expert level, if that makes sense. So you need to look on the level that you want to be perceived. So yes, you can have a self-published product, but it can still be very high quality, which is where your editing is going to come in. And it can still have a very polished, professional, high-level presentation so that you can be treated and seen as the expert that you are.
Do your authors make it to these big lists that everyone talks about, like the New York Times bestselling list? Is that a thing you can do, self-publishing?
When it comes to New York Times bestseller, like, I haven't personally had any authors that have gone there because I don't teach that. Like, I've never been to New York Times bestsellers, but I've been featured in Forbes. They have gotten me partnerships and on the platforms with the New York Times bestselling authors, and I get their audience and they become clients. So, when it comes to a lot of the bestsellers list, a lot of that's algorithms, like how many people purchase your book within this certain time frame and things like that. And when people say, hey, I want to be on a New York Times bestseller list, my immediate question is why?
That's a great question.
Why? a lot of times it doesn't even necessarily boil down to credibility. It boils down to just because I want to be. So I'm like, okay, well, let's look at, let's delve into that a bit deeper. Does this make you feel like you would be more of an accomplishment? Does this make you feel like you have a greater level of respect or esteem? Like, let's get down to the nitty gritty of the why. You know, do you feel like you could command more with this particular label or with this particular title? You know, or if you learn the skills to sell high ticket, you know, and you could go create a $20,000 or $30,000 program or service or offer. If you could do that and you knew that you could do that, would you still want to be on this list?
Well, you know what? It's just like podcasting. Because if I had said, and that's all algorithm driven too, you know, how many reviews you get when you launch, get on new and noteworthy. And when I launched, we got over, I think 115 reviews in the first 7 days. And that's just the testament because I had an existing audience. I mean, I listen to podcasts that are on, I don't think we ever made a list or whatever. I wasn't trying to, and I didn't let it stop me. Because I don't need the accolades of like, oh, I made this or whatever. But so it's very similar. It's so funny. You really drew so many parallels with me between the books and the podcast. It's like, why I understood this for the podcast and I went ahead and did it anyways. So why did I think that that a book had to be so different, but it's not. And you're right. You don't need to be on the New York Times bestselling list to have it give you the credibility as you're building your brand.
I just had a client and she released her book. And she wrote a book where she was detailing the journey of African-American doctors when they go into predominantly white schools and just sharing, you know, some of the experiences that they have from just a different perspective as they are on the journey to what she calls the white coat. Mm-hmm. And she, you know, is going into different schools to talk about this, you know, from a diversity and inclusion perspective. So she was very, very clear on, you know, the goal for the book and the topic and things of that nature. She didn't have really an audience, but she had the positioning with her book. She sold $5,000 in pre-orders within 2 weeks. And in less than a month has already secured her first bulk order, 600 books, which got her over $10,000. It's about, it's really about your audience, your target, understanding your messaging, the solution that you're providing, and being able to position yourself as the authority on that topic.
Wow.
And she's been able to do that literally in 30 days of her launch. So yeah, she's not on any bestsellers list, but she's definitely making back pocket type sales.
Yeah. And it's giving her the credibility to get into those rooms that she wants to be in for her topic.
Absolutely. Because she's being asked to come speak, to do workshops, and to do all these things literally in the first 30 days.
That is very impressive. Okay. I want to ask you about your live event. I am very curious about this. So you have the 6-month coaching program, you have a mastermind, and now you have this live event. What is the live event?
Ooh, listen. So the event is the 6-Figure Storyteller live experience, and I'm so excited about it. So this is a brainchild for many, many years. So the idea of it actually started years ago when I had my agency. And one of my clients said to me, it would be great if you would create a conference where we could all come together with our books. I said, you know what? That's a great idea. I'm going to think about that. And I stuck it in the back of my mind. And so over the years of working with clients to help them write and create programs and all these things, I said, you know what? We need a conference. Like, we need a high level conference. I was looking at the industry and when it comes to books, people like put together these low budget events. You know, people don't feel special, you know, I'm not going to say they don't learn anything, but they do learn things, but it's not really propelling them into that next step of your career into making 6 or 7 figure business, and to making a 6 or 7 figure business from your book. So we were actually supposed to do the conference last year, but COVID shut everything down. So I said, you know what? We're moving forward in 2021. At the end of the year, it's going to be what it's going to be. We have to move forward on this. And so I'm so excited because this is over the course of 3 days. We are diving into everything that coaches, leaders need to know to create the foundation of a best-selling book and six-figure coaching business. So this is where we're tying it all together. So on day one, we're talking about six-figure storyteller mindset and storytelling strategy. What are the mindsets and the thoughts and the habits that you need to have to go from being stuck for 10 years to getting it done in 12 days? Talking about more so those mindset shifts to not only making it happen, but to also go from feeling like you have to sell your book for $10 and like you're not worthy to being able to sell premium price programs. What are those mindset shifts? So we're talking about that on day one, and also diving deep into strategy. We can create your six-figure storyteller outline. Day two is all about branding, marketing, and messaging. So how do you position yourself as the expert in your industry? What are the branding strategies that you need? How do you create those how do you build the audience and create the relationship with them? What are those marketing strategies that you need? Like, how do you create the visibility and get your message out there? And how do you create the messaging so that you can not only convert your readers into clients, but also attract that audience that you want? And day three is all about monetization. How do you create a six-figure business from a book? How do you make money? Like 80% of independent authors make less than $1,000 a year. And many of the authors who work with me and in our programs, they scale way past that, and I'm sharing some of the strategies that I teach my clients. These are the things that we do to help you make money. So whether you've already written your book and you haven't gotten the results that you want, you're in the process of writing your book and you're trying to figure out what to do next so that you have the best results, or you're something that you've been thinking about. These are the things that you need to know so that you can make sure that you put yourself on the fast track to getting the desired results.
So you are essentially teaching people how to create a book funnel.
Yes.
That's exactly what you're doing, which is speaking my language.
Yes. But a lot of people don't resonate with book funnel.
The funnel.
What's the funnel?
Yeah. Oh,
so I have to break it down.
The name of your event is much more catchy than calling it how to do a book funnel, right? So definitely you're appealing to you're an English teacher, so you're much better with your words than the literal and practical. It's a book funnel.
It's absolutely a book funnel. And that is, I want to help people shift how they see books. Like, you're not selling the book to sell the book. It's a marketing tool. It's a branding tool. It's a positioning tool. Having the book will open up doors of opportunity for you. It has for me, and I want everyone to experience, the things that I've experienced.
I mean, honestly, you've sold me on it. I did not expect to come into this conversation thinking that I'd want to write a book at the end. So I really feel like people listening may also feel like me, which leads me to, if they want help, how do they work with you now?
Yes. Come check out my website, JasmineWomack.com. I have a free 5-part video series that teaches you how to turn your book into 8 to 10K per month. So you can check out that video series. My book is published and paid. How to write, self-publish, and launch your nonfiction book in 90 days or less. So you can check that out at publishedandpaidbook.com. And of course, the Six-Figure Storyteller live experience. That's going to be October 21st to 23rd. And you can check that out and learn more about it at sixfigurestorytellerlive.com.
We will be sure to link to all that. Now, do you think you'll run the live event more than once?
Yes. So we already have our dates planned for next year.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. That's great. That actually excites me. It's because I I do a lot of travel for the business and I tend to overcommit myself, but I am really intrigued by this event. So I'm glad you're going to be running it again.
Oh, awesome. Yes. I've actually had a lot of people saying that, like, listen, I can't come this year. But I definitely want to come next year. More so of the people that are in my international audience.
Yeah.
Yes, we already have our dates for next year, and those dates will be out immediately after this year's conference. So we're actually almost sold out. So I'm really excited.
Well, I'm so excited for you. I'm really excited for you. That's amazing. That's amazing to see all your hard work come to fruition in a live event too. I'm sure it's going to be amazing to witness.
Oh yeah, we're going to have a good time.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing all your wisdom about writing books, and I'll be sure to link to everything in the show notes so people can find you. And if they're interested in writing books, they can come learn from the absolute best out there. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Monica, and everyone listening. Looking forward to connecting with y'all.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Empowered Business Podcast. If you want to get started creating your own digital products and don't know where to start, we have a brand new training that can help. It's called Passion to Profit: How to Discover Your Unique $1 Million Digital Product Formula. Head on over to empoweredbusiness.co/profit to join the training for free. Plus, we've added on a private podcast feed to make consuming the content even easier. You can choose to consume it via video or a private podcast feed. I can't wait to see you back here next week.